All right, let's talk about watches. But not just any watches. We're diving into a world where a timepiece can be a piece of history, a work of art. And yeah, sometimes it's worth more than a mansion.
So that's got to make you wonder, right? How in the world does a watch, even a really well-made one, get to be worth millions of dollars? I mean, it's clearly not just about telling time. So what's the secret?
Just to put this into perspective, this is the number we're talking about, $17.8 million. That is the actual record-breaking price for a single Rolex sold at auction. And in this explainer, we're going to figure out exactly how that happens.
Okay, so the answer to that $17.8 million question? Well, it all starts with understanding the very strange, very unique world of how you even buy a Rolex in the first place. It's a market that's really not like anything else.
So you want to know how Rolex keeps its value so high? It's all about this two-tiered system. On one hand, you can go to an authorized dealer, get on a super long waitlist, and pay the official price. Or you can hop over to the secondary market, get the watch right away, but you're going to pay a way higher price that's driven by pure, insane demand. And that deliberate scarcity, that's really the foundation of the whole Rolex mystique.
Okay, so scarcity definitely creates value, but it doesn't create that much value. I mean, to get into the millions, you need something more. You need a very specific recipe. You could even call it a million-dollar formula.
And here it is. These are the three key ingredients that take a fancy watch and turn it into a cultural artifact. First up, celebrity provenance. Was it owned by someone famous? Then, number two, extreme rarity. Are we talking one of a handful or maybe even one of a kind? And finally, number three, historical significance. Does this watch represent some special moment in history? When you get all three of those things to come together, that's when the price just goes absolutely stratospheric.
All right, so let's see this formula in action, shall we? We're about to count down some of the most expensive Rolexes ever sold. And we're going to get into the incredible stories that, believe it or not, actually justify these insane multi-million-dollar price tags.
So, kicking off our list at number 5 is a watch so ridiculously rare, Rolex never even sold it to the public. Collectors know it simply as the split seconds.
Get this, only 12 of these were ever made, all the way back in 1942. And of those, only 8 have ever been found. But its real claim to fame is what's on the inside. This is the only split-second chronograph Rolex has ever made. That's a super complex feature for timing different events at once. So you take that unique engineering plus the crazy rarity, and boom, $2.6 million.
All right, next up, we have a watch that is the perfect mix of historical significance and royal ownership. It sold for over $5 million. This is the Bao Dai.
This watch is such a great example of our formula. So it was owned by Bao Dai, who was the last emperor of Vietnam, and on top of that royal history, the design itself is totally unique. It's got this 18-karat gold case and a totally one-of-a-kind diamond layout on the dial. I mean, it was custom-made for an emperor. So yeah, it's no surprise it pulled in over $5 million at auction.
Coming in at number 2 is a watch with a nickname that honestly says it all, the Unicorn. And it got that name because for the longest time, collectors literally believed a watch like this couldn't exist. They thought it was a myth.
So what makes it a unicorn? Well, back in the 70s, the Daytona was a tool watch, right? It was built to be used, which meant they were pretty much all made out of stainless steel. But this piece, this is the only one known to exist that was specially ordered in precious white gold. That mythical one-of-a-kind status, that's what pushed it to nearly $6 million.
And that brings us to the big one. Number 1, the very watch that kicked off this whole explainer, the one that sold for that mind-blowing price we saw at the very beginning. This is Paul Newman's actual, personal Cosmograph Daytona.
This watch, it is the absolute perfect storm. So first, the provenance. It was owned and worn every single day by the legend himself, Paul Newman. Then, the historical significance. It was a gift from his wife, Joanne Woodward, and she had the back engraved with "Drive Carefully Me." You take that incredibly personal touch, you combine it with the iconic owner, and the fact that this specific Paul Newman dial is already super desirable, and you get the perfect trifecta of value. The result? $17.8 million.
Okay, so these record-breaking sales are amazing to look at, but they really are the absolute peak of the mountain. So what's going on in the wider Rolex investment market right now? Let's zoom out a bit and look beyond the big auction headlines.
So after a just crazy period of growth, the market hit this massive peak back in April 2022. But since then, well, prices have gone through a pretty big correction. And while things seem to be evening out now, the average prices are still way down from that high point. Basically, the whole idea of buying a Rolex as a guaranteed quick profit, that era has cooled way, way down.
And there are a bunch of reasons for this shift. You've got general economic uncertainty, right? So there's less speculative cash flowing into luxury stuff. At the same time, you've got this whole new wave of exciting independent watch brands that are getting the attention of serious collectors. And maybe the biggest deal of all, Rolex itself is pouring billions into increasing its production. Over time, that could totally change the whole scarcity game that's defined its value for decades.
So, after all that, the auctions, the crazy market swings, the million-dollar formulas, it kind of brings us back to the most basic question. What is a watch like this really worth?
There's a quote from our source material that really just nails it. When you're talking about these specific, record-breaking watches, their ability to tell time is almost beside the point. The real value is in the story they tell.
Because in the end, these aren't just watches. They're cultural artifacts. Their value comes from this incredible mix of masterful craftsmanship, insane rarity, and, this is the most important part, the human stories of the iconic people who actually wore them. That's the secret.
And that really leaves us with one last thing to think about, doesn't it? In a world that's all about fleeting trends and new tech, what actually makes something timeless? Is it what it's made of? Or is it the stories that it carries? I guess it all comes down to what we, as people, decide is truly valuable.